Hi, my name is Justin, and I'm going to be playing 20 questions about Saturn.
How did Saturn get its rings?
Saturn's rings were believed to be formed from comets, moons, or asteroids that collided in orbit around the planet, and then gradually spread out.
What are the rings made of?
Saturn's rings are believed to be made of pieces of ice and rock that formed from these comets, moons, or asteroids that were colliding in orbit.
What are Saturn's rotational and orbital periods?
So 1 year on Saturn is equivalent to 29 Earth years, and 1 day on Saturn is equivalent to 10 hours and 42 minutes here on Earth.
What is Saturn made of?
Saturn is made mostly of hydrogen and helium. It has a dense core of metals surrounded by a rocky material.
Does Saturn have moons?
Yes, Saturn has 53 known moons, the biggest of them being Titan, Enceladus, Iapetus, Rhea, Dione, Tethys, and Mimas.
Have there been any missions to Saturn?
There have been 5 NASA missions that have gone to Saturn, 3 of which were just flybys. Those 3 being Pioneer 11, Voyager 1, and Voyager 2. The other 2 missions were named Cassini and Huygens. Cassini was solely designed for Saturn, and Huygens actually hitched a ride on Cassini, but was designed to study the atmosphere of Titan.
How big is Saturn in comparison to Earth?
Saturn is the second largest planet in our solar system behind Jupiter. It's about 100 times more massive than the Earth, and its radius is nearly 10 times that of Earth.
Why are there gaps in the rings?
Saturn has a bunch of gaps in its rings, the most prominent being the Cassini division, which you can see through a telescope. And it is believed that it's caused by gravitational effects of the moon called Mimas. Other gaps in the rings include the Encke and Keeler gaps, which are caused by a moon actually orbiting in those gaps.
What color is Saturn?
Saturn is very pale yellow and orange. It's possibly a little brown too, depending on how you look at it.
What is the surface temperature of Saturn?
Saturn's surface temperature is approximately negative 288 degrees Fahrenheit, which is equivalent to about negative 178 degrees Celsius.
What time of the year can Saturn be seen from Earth?
Saturn is best viewed from Earth right now in the summer, but after a decade or so this may change because of the orbits of Saturn and the Earth.
Does Saturn have an identifiable number of rings?
Yes. So right now Saturn's rings are categorized A through G, and it's possible that there might be rings further out that we have not found.
Do the rings orbit at different speeds?
Yes, so a particle near the inner edge of the rings will orbit at approximately 75 kilometers a second, whereas a particle on the outer edge of the rings will orbit at approximately 17 kilometers per second.
Are there seasons like Earth has on Saturn?
Yes, so much like the Earth's 23-degree tilt, Saturn is actually tilted at 27 degrees, which allows for seasons. And fun fact, a Saturn summer lasts about 8 Earth years.
Is the hexagon shape on both poles of Saturn?
So according to Hubble, the hexagon only appears in the North Pole. However, a similar vortex does exist in the South Pole. This hex shape is actually caused by a huge storm on Saturn, where the center is a hurricane with an eye 50 times larger than an Earth hurricane.
Does Saturn have auroras?
Yes, Saturn does have auroras. However, the auroras can only be seen in ultraviolet light, which means that you would have to view them from a space instrument.
Does Saturn have a magnetic field?
Yes, Saturn does have a magnetic field. It is the second strongest magnetic field in the solar system, and it's nearly perfectly aligned with Saturn's orientation. True north is actually magnetic north on Saturn.
What are Saturn and Cassini named after?
The Romans were able to make out 7 bright objects in the sky: the moon, the sun, and 5 planets. So they named these after their gods. Saturn was the god of agriculture and time. So since Saturn has the slowest orbital period of these 5 planets that they could see, it's thought that they named it after the god of time. The Cassini mission is named after Italian-French astronomer Giovanni Cassini, who discovered the Cassini division in Saturn's rings.
Does Saturn have an atmosphere?
Yes, Saturn does have an atmosphere, but a spacecraft could not travel inside this atmosphere because pressure is over 100 times greater than the Earth's. It's powerful enough to squeeze gases into liquids.
How did Saturn form?
Saturn formed with the rest of the solar system. An accretion of ice and rock built up, and then gas clung onto the rock. Over time, it eventually grew and has become the planet Saturn.
Have there been any missions to NASA? Have you been to NASA, Justin?
Kind of, yeah.
You worked for them, so I hope so.